Everyone, it's Mrs. Tremblay with lesson 7.5, and what does 7.5 mean? It means we're going to learn how to solve polynomial equations. I love solving equations. I always get excited when everything comes back to that, and now it's a new kind of equation. It's a polynomial equation, and basically we're going to solve it when it's in factored form. I'm not sure if you knew this before, but there are actually different forms of polynomials. You've kind of seen them, but we haven't really defined them. So basically, factored form of a polynomial, that's when you have it written out as the binomials you would multiply together to get the standard form. So standard form, that's like your simplest form answer. There's no parentheses in there. Non-standard form means they're all kind of mixed up. There's the equal sign. There's stuff on both sides of the equal sign. But the factored form of a polynomial means it's written kind of as a multiplication problem with those parentheses. You can go from factored form to standard form by getting rid of the parentheses. In standard form, it's going to always be set equal to 0. And non-standard form means we don't have any parentheses in there, but we have things on both sides of the equal sign, and whatever's on one side is not equal to 0. Okay, so basically what we need today is we need our equation to be in standard form, in factored form, in order to be able to solve these equations. And we're going to use one of our little properties. Hopefully you have been working hard on your vocab and you've already familiarized yourself with the zero product property. What does it state? It states something that I know you learned a very long time ago, but now it's coming back. It's kind of how it happens in math. But that zero product property states that if the product of two real numbers is 0, that means if you multiply two numbers together and it results in 0, then at least one of those numbers has to be equal to 0. That's the only way to get 0 for a final answer, right? One of the factors is 0. Both of them could be. You never know. But when one side of an equation is a polynomial in factored form, like this, and the other side is 0, you can use the zero product property to solve the equation. And I know that you've heard of roots before, but a new use of the root word, that was weird. A new use of the word root, there we go, is it's a solution to a polynomial equation. It's called a root. Okay, so let's try solving some of these. There's a couple on this page. There's just a few more on the last page. I want to make sure I give you a nice variety of examples to solve so you're not just solving one kind and not seeing what else they can look like. Okay, so basically this zero product property states that if I'm multiplying these two polynomials together to get 0, then either x plus 6 equals 0 or x minus 5 equals 0. So we're just going to take what I just said and set it up into two little equations. I just said if when you multiply those two together you get 0, that means that either x plus 6 equals 0 or x minus 5 equals 0. Once you set it up like that, it's really as simple as solving these one-step equations. They're just one-steps. To cancel out this plus 6, you would subtract 6, or add a negative 6 if you're looking at it that way. Same thing. So x can be equal to 0 plus negative 6 is negative 6. And with this one, x minus 5, in order to solve that, I would add 5 to each side. And x equals 5. So for my solutions, x equals negative 6 and negative 5. Positive 5. There's your answer. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? You see why I like solving equations so much? So again, this next one, if the product of these is 0, then either z minus 4 equals 0, or z minus 6 equals 0, or both of them do. I'm going to put little lines through my z's so they don't look like 2's. And we just solve them. So with this one, add 4 to each side. Z can be 4. Add 6 to each side. Z can be 6. Keep it going. Okay, here's a little bit different one. I have b plus 7 squared. That just means that I have b plus 7 and another b plus 7, right? So I'm really only solving one equation because it's the same exact thing. So b plus 7 equals 0. I would subtract my 7. And 0 minus 7 is negative 7. And we just get the one solution this time. So when you have a square, that's what happens. So far, so good. Now, we throw some examples in that look a little bit different than what you've seen because I don't have a binomial multiplied by another binomial. But this is still a factor and this is a factor. Doesn't this mean I'm taking x and I'm multiplying it by the quantity of x plus 8? So one of the factors has to be 0. That means that either this x is equal to 0 or the x plus 8 is equal to 0. Well, this equation's already set. This one, all you need to do is subtract your 8 and x equals negative 8. So for our solutions, x equals 0 and x equals negative 8. That is a 0. It's a sloppy one. I'm sorry. I don't know how people can make sloppy zeros, but apparently I am capable. All right, next one, kind of same exact thing. Maybe you want to try these next two on your own. Press pause and then come back and make sure that you're right. Welcome back. Okay, so either this 3t is equal to 0 or this t plus 2 is equal to 0. If 3t is equal to 0, I'm going to divide each side by 3, and t is 0. And I would subtract 2 from this side. T can be equal to 0 minus 2 is negative 2. Hope you got it right. If not, maybe this last one. This will be it for you. I may get this one right. Ready? All right, I'm going to keep change just because that's what I do, because that's what I see most people needing me to do. Either this 2y equals 0, meaning that y would be 0, and or y plus negative 4 will be 0. So I just need to add 4, and y would equal 4. So there's two answers to that. There are two numbers that can make this true. Okay, turn the page. These have all been little one-steps. Piece of cake. I want to make sure that you understand it's not always going to be just a little one-step equation. Still keeping it short. There's only 3 little examples left. All right, I have a 2a plus 7 and the quantity of 2a minus 7. Either 2a plus 7 equals 0 or 2a minus 7 equals 0. So we have a two-step equation to solve this time. It's okay. You're pros at all these, I know. I would start off by subtracting 7. So those cancel. I'm left with 2a equals negative 7. And then I need to divide by that 2 that's being multiplied. And a equals, it's not a whole number, it's okay. A's allowed to be a decimal. Negative 7 divided by 2 is negative 3.5. So there's 1. And now with our next example here, if I have 2a minus 7, that really means plus negative. So to get the 2a alone, I'm going to add 7 to each side. I'm left with 2a equals a positive 7. Divide by 2, and now a is a positive 3.5. So a is either this or that. All right, next one. This is a nice little squared one. That means that I have this same equation 2 times. You don't need to write out the same exact equation twice. I want you to use your time effectively. So we're just saying that this equation, even though it's twice, has to be equal to 0. With this one, I'm going to solve it out. I'll add the opposite. I want to get rid of the constant first. I want this, the variable term. The variable term needs to be by itself. So that 12 needs to go away. To cancel that out, I'm going to add a negative 12 or subtract 12, whatever floats your boat. And negative 6x is left. 0 plus negative 12 is negative 12. Now all that's left to do is to divide by the coefficient of x, divide by your negative 6, and x equals positive 2. When you have those equations that are squared, you're only going to end up with one answer. That's okay. It's nice. It's a little shortcut. And of course, it wouldn't be a good day if I didn't throw some fractions at you. It's okay. It's 1/2. That's the friendliest fraction around. Sounds like the title of a little book about 1/2. 1/2, the friendliest fraction around. Go ahead and write that. I'll be your co-author. I'd offer to illustrate, but you've seen my pictures. It can't happen. Okay, anyway, even though there's a fraction here, I'm still going to solve it the same way. Either 1/2 p minus 8 is equal to 0, or, there's a fourth. That's even, well, it's not as friendly, but it's the next friendliest. Or 1/4 p minus 1 equals 0. Either one of those. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll change my signs. You don't have to. If you are, that's good. It's a good strategy to use. I'll draw my line. I want the variable term alone first. That means this negative 8 has to go away. I'm left with 1/2 p equals 8. And do you remember how to get rid of this 1/2? How do you get rid of fractional coefficients? You multiply by the reciprocal, or if you wanted to divide by 1/2, you could. I would just multiply this by 2, because I know that the 2's would cross cancel and I'd be left with 1p, which is the same as p. And then whatever you do to this side, you have to do to this side. 8 times 2 is 16. Remember, dividing by 1/2 is not the same as dividing by 2. So maybe some of you thought this answer was 4. 8 divided by 1/2 is asking you how many 1/2 would fit into 8. Wouldn't it be double? Because for every 1, there's 2 1/2. We can have that conversation further if you would like, but it's 16, I promise. And last one, we have a 1/4. We want this 1/4 p alone, so I'm going to add 1 to each side. We're left with 1/4 p equals 1. To get rid of 1/4, I can multiply by the reciprocal. If you wanted to put a 1 underneath there, you could. It doesn't end up changing anything. Those will cancel out. 1p is p, and 1 times 4 is 4. And now you know how to solve a polynomial equation in factored form. I'll see you tomorrow.